Hi, this is my review of Traveler, the RPG. More specifically, this is a review of the Pocket Rulebook by Mongoose Publishing. Well, Traveler is a science fiction RPG. It's very popular, it's one of the classics. There are very few sci fi gamers that don't know about it. And well, let's start talking about the physical qualities or characteristics of the book. Even though it's soft cover, it's pretty sturdy, and the binding is pretty good. The quality of the paper is good as well, but it's starting to get a bit yellow on some parts. And the ink is good. You can understand how to play the game fairly easily, even though it's quite a crunchy and complex game. It has a lot of depth to it. There's actually a bigger version. This is, as I told you, this is the Pocket Rulebook, and the larger version, even though it's a bit more less practical to carry around, it has some advantages over this one. But I decided to buy this one not only because it's cheaper, but it's a lot more handy to carry around. Well, the book starts giving you a somewhat decent introduction to what sci-fi RPG is, and role-playing in general, but it's not really that good. It's just barely decent. If you're new to role-playing games, don't use this game to get started on the hobby. And if you are new in role-playing games that has to have to do with sci-fi, this is also not a very good introduction. You will get into the flavor of what a sci-fi game is, and how to play it, but after a few stumbles and a few mistakes at first. Well, the character creation in this game is pretty deep and involved. You almost generate each year of your character's life, almost. The thing is that you not only generate stats, but you also choose different careers that your character decided to take in his professional life. So maybe he was a soldier at one time, and then he dropped out of that profession and became a scholar, and maybe later on he decided to become a merchant. So your character starts getting a lot of different skills and bonuses, but also penalties, because during each period in each career, your character could get injured, or maybe some kind of terrible mishap occurred during a certain operation or some project. But at the same time, you could also get bonuses, maybe even gaining more cash, or maybe even acquiring something like vehicles or weaponry. It all depends on the roll of the dice. So once you finish creating your character, you don't feel like you just created a playing piece. You feel like you shaped the entire life of a person. So this actually makes you a bit nervous when your character is about to die, because you're really going to miss that character, because you placed so much effort and time in shaping this complex persona. And well, the game is pretty simple to play. You just need a few six-sided dice. For each test, you just roll a couple of six-sided dice, and you try to reach an 8 or higher. But according to different modifiers and situations, you may need a bit less or more. And you get quite a large selection of skills, and that's the crunchy part. You're going to be adding and subtracting modifiers according to many things, to the tools that you use, to different circumstances, your skills, and etc. And this game, even though humans or humanity, which is like evolved versions of humans today, this humanity with an eye at the end, well, it's they have a strong presence throughout the entire universe, but there are also some alien life forms that you can choose as a player character. So for example, you have the Aslan, that there are kind of like these lion creatures over here, or the drawing, who are like this. You also get other alien races such as the Vargar, the Kree. Let me show you some of the illustrations of the different alien races. And you also get the Zodani, who are pretty much human as well, but they have a strong Middle East flavor. Now, in the most in the classic campaign setting for Traveler, which would be the Spinward Marches, there's a strong conflict between the Imperium and the Zodani, and that feels a bit cliched because it feels kind of like Middle East versus West. I don't know why they took that I don't know, that conflict to this game. It feels a bit cliched. And so besides using skills for different solving different problems beyond opening high-tech security bolts or maybe playing first aid, you also engage in combat, and combat in this game is quite lethal. It kind of feels like Call of Cthulhu, not that much, but if your character doesn't fight with all the advantages, the best gear, the most favorable position, etc., you're going to get killed really easily, especially if you're outnumbered. So combat is actually best avoided unless the mission requires you to engage in combat, because you can carry out the different types of campaigns. Your characters could be mercenaries, and they could also be merchants. They could be reporters, like journalists. There are so many ways that you can handle a Traveler game, and it doesn't matter if you have characters from different professions. You could have a team with a scientist, a soldier, and a scout, but that doesn't mean they have to engage in missions that have to do with combat and war and espionage. They could also be like free traders, or maybe even tour guides across different dangerous planets, because planets in the Traveler universe have a very complex system, rather a very deep system to generate flora and fauna. So you may end up encountering hostile life forms. You also have a good selection of equipment and ships in this game. They even have some rules to generate spaceships. However, those rules are a bit clunky. They are not that well thought of, in my opinion. They even fixed this system in another book, and you don't get rules to create vehicles, land vehicles, I mean. There are also virtually no mechas and like a sufficiently developed system to create androids and high-tech things like that. But the equipment is quite decent. The list of equipment has a lot of things beyond just weapons and armor. You also have all sorts of devices, like communication devices and things to measure the radiation levels. And that's the strong part of this game, of the Traveler game, is that you actually feel like you are there, because this feels pretty much like the definition of hard sci-fi. There are some pulpy elements, but it's most like hard facts in the context of sci-fi. So if you're landing in a certain base or in a planet, you don't just get off the ship and start walking around. You first have to measure the level of radiation, or maybe you decide to wait a bit inside the ship to see if there are some hostile forces around, and you have to really think things through. There are also rules for vehicular combat and spaceship battles, kind of like from dogfights to really massive battles. Although that's another thing that this book lacks. It has a nice selection of ships, but there are basically not that many of those larger ships. You know, those ships that weigh around, I don't know, 5,000 tons. So if you expect to carry out like a huge battle, like an entire fleet, you're going to need a different book for that. And battles between spaceships have to be carried out very intelligently, because, as I told you, the combat is really lethal and dangerous in this game. And you also want to salvage the ship, not just destroy it completely. you have to. It's better if you capture or kill the enemy crew, and then you maybe tow or take different parts of the ship and sell them later on, or maybe replace parts of your own ship with those things. There's also a good system, a bit complex, but it's pretty good system to create different planets at specific sectors. So you can just travel around in a sandbox campaign. And well, it is actually a pretty good game. However, I don't think there's a very strong thematic flavor to it. The book contains just some hints of a larger campaign setting. It feels like a very technical book. You really feel like you're reading like an instruction manual and not something with a bit more flavor. It feels very dry, maybe too dry for its own good. Because some other sci-fi games, you start reading and you get all excited about different data they give you about the campaign setting, about the political struggles and different wars that are going on. But this game just gives you like a skeleton of what you can do with the Traveler game. And if you want more a more developed campaign setting and further rules to flesh out some things that are a bit clunky, you need to buy separate books. And I think that's a bit of a flaw with Traveler, because other sci-fi games you get for $20 or less, you get the rules, a large bestiary, rules for creating all sorts of vehicles, mecha, androids, all sorts of advanced cybernetics, a well thought out system to create all sorts of things. But with this book, just gives you like the main skeleton, and you still need to add more things to it. If you decide to get into Traveler, I recommend getting the Spinward Marches campaign setting and downloading the Secret of the Ancients campaign. It's a series of adventures that they are free to download from the Mongoose website, or at least they were free about 1 year ago. I hope they still are. And that way you're going to get more of a flavor or theme for this game. I think that's the only weak point, because the system feels a bit feels really realistic in the terms that I told you, that fighting is really lethal, and you just don't approach situations in a carefree manner. You have to really think things through and get the right equipment for each situation. Well, I hope you enjoyed this review. If you have any comments or questions, please let me know. See you later.